Right, it is a Sunday morning, bright and breezy, fairly mild. Let's see what's going on in the hothouse. Again, I call it the hothouse, it's not heated, just kept frost free. We've had no frost yet, but things are slowing down. But it's been a while since we've sort of done an update on some of the stuff that's growing in here. So we'll have a look. Just nice to come out the wind. Without that wind, it is quite pleasant. Right, so as we know, I've got a lot of stuff overwintering in here. Surprisingly, a lot of the alocasias are still looking okay at the moment. I will expect some of them to drop some leaves soon. Again, I haven't watered anything in here for over a month now, so it's just the humidity in the background which is sort of keeping things hydrated, as it were, but we want things to dry out a little bit. The only things I will be watering, like the tree ferns, the cyathea there, and some of the stuff that just, once some of the palms, when they get a bit too dry, I will give them a drop of water here and there, but in general, not really intending to water anything too much in here. So really, yeah, I want to do an update on the stuff that's actually planted in the ground in here. So basically the end wall here, which is the colocasias and alocasias and a couple of palms. And so I've gone through the plantings, all the species in previous videos, but I thought we'd just do an update, see what they look like now. So we've literally had, like I say, over a month with no water, no temperatures to speak of. We've sort of been sitting, this is a good example. So we've got the temperature gauge here, about 15 degrees at the moment, a low of 7.5. So I've reset that because we did have a cooler period a couple of weeks back where we got down to, outside we got down to about just +1 or 2 degrees, so just narrowly avoiding the frost, and it did get down to 4 degrees in here. So I've reset it since, and we haven't got down below 7.5 degrees. So in bearing that in mind, daytime temperatures around 15 and nighttime temperature 7 degrees, these plants aren't going to be growing at this point. They're going to be slowly deteriorating, but in fairness, they still look pretty good at the moment. I mean, bearing in mind we're sort of late November now, so no, like I say, well over a month with no sort of hot temperatures, and surprisingly, things are looking okay still. In fact, we've still got a new leaf come out on this, what's this one, the Marigold Coloccia, and interestingly it's got a nice sort of light patch there, almost like a variegated patch, just random. But yeah, they're some of the older leaves. Yeah, we've started to get a little bit of brown spotting on, if you can see that. But yeah, no, this is one that surprised me. Really nice sort of lime green colour on that. And yeah, so I'm really looking forward to next growing season, next year, spring, summer, because if I can get plants to this sort of size in really weeks, I mean, we're talking probably less than 2 months, and we had really small plug plants to really quite big leaves, so you can imagine over a 6, 7, 8 month period, this could be potentially a quite impressive little back end to the hothouse here with some really big leaves. So I'm looking forward to that, but I mean, that is a bit preemptive because, again, I don't know if all of these are going to survive. So some of these are new, so they're going to be experimental for me in this situation. Some of these plants I know will take a long cold period as long as they're kept dry. And I'll give an example of that for the alocasia pectora. I know that these they should keep at least 1 or 2 leaves and just sort of go dormant, and then as soon as the temperatures warm up they'll kick back into growth. So that I know is not going to be too much of a problem. We have got some Kentia palms in here as well, so I know they'll take the winter as long as they don't get frosted. And again, with like the Monstera deliciosa at the back there. So yeah, some of these plants I know will survive, but a lot of these colocasias, they're going to be touch and go. So one that I know will probably survive is the Jack's Giant. So this is like a sport off the Colocasia esculenta, which for me survived the winter outside. So this is just like a giant version of that, and they're pretty tough. I've grown them in the past and kept them going for a couple of years in a cold state over winter, and they've been pretty tough. So not really too concerned about that one, but the ones I am concerned about, the ones I haven't really tried before, and that is the Redemption. So a lot of people are trying these this year, so this is going to be a bit of trial and error with everyone. So nice little community. I'm sure we can find ways to get these plants through winter, and I'm sure lots of people are trying lots of different methods, which hopefully between our little plant growing communities we can sort out the best way of doing it. I mean, there are tried and tested ways obviously, but I'm not going to go into all different ways to overwinter. All I'm saying is I've got some small offsets of these Redemptions which are growing indoors, and the main plant I've left in here. So this is a very free draining mix of compost and perlite. So it's, like I say, not been watered in here for over a month, but we have been getting some condensation drips, so the leaves are getting some sort of drips on them. You can see that, little beads of water. But the soil itself, I stuck my finger down a couple of inches and that's pretty dry, so I'm happy with how that's dried out. So that's going to give the corms the best chance of getting through winter without rotting. And again, we're not going to get down to freezing in here, so fingers crossed most of these should survive. But again, it's the first year I've grown Farahs Mask, so that's going to be another experiment. And this did push out a fairly new leaf recently, so yeah, quite an impressive one. I mean, that's one that's been available for a few years, but it's come down a lot in price. It was quite pricey when it first got released in the UK, but it's quite affordable now. So again, a lot of these just a case of trial and error. Everyone's circumstance is going to be slightly different. What you do need to take into account is as these leaves die off, what you don't want is one of these big leaves to die off and start going mouldy and touching other plants and leaves and causing all sorts of issues in that state. So it's just a matter of good housekeeping, and as a leaf sort of yellows, as it yellows out, I'll cut it off. You don't want to get to the point where it's brown and mouldy or turn to mush. You need to remove any dead or dying foliage as and when you see it, just to keep any fungal issues under control. And I will say we have got the ceiling fan running 24 hours a day, and that's a real low wattage one. I think it's about 8 watts, so you didn't even notice that on the electric bill, and that's just helped to circulate the air around this whole hothouse. And yeah, you just get a nice little sway on some of the leaves and just keeping the air moving. And yeah, that is a little bit cooler underneath the fan. That's going to be the case, but also what it is doing is any heat that does build up during the day, it's just distributing that evenly rather than all, you know, heat being at the top where your plant's on the floor level. So it's just moving the air about and keeping everything even rather than, you know, hot and cold zones, as it were. So for me, the number one priority, even if you can't heat a greenhouse or an environment like this, the fan is the most important thing. You need that airflow, you need to circulate the air so it's an even distribution of heat, humidity. You don't want, you know, hot spots, cold spots, spots where there's just no airflow. And I am well impressed with that fan for under 20 quid, real low watt, and it does a real good job, to be fair. Yeah, so as it is, things are still looking pretty good in here, which has surprised me because I really thought I'd be getting some more dye back by now. The only problems we have got is obviously we've got some slug and snail damage, insect damage on some of the sort of smaller plants. A nice little white fusion there, which I don't really expect that to survive the winter, but if it does, it's a bonus. Yeah, just a whole array of plants which I feel that I might get away with, but I mean, I could be wrong. Like I say, this is all new to me to an extent with a lot of these plants. So, but yeah, still looking good at the moment, you know, for end of November. Certainly surpassed what I was expecting. One, I probably don't expect to survive in this area. Out of all the elephant ears, the two concerns really, probably the Marigold, because that's like the Hawaiian series, so they are sort of more true tropical types, and the Thai giants. So these are just ones I've grown from seed this year, and they haven't got massive leaves on them by any stretch of the imagination, but they are quite nice plants, and if they do survive the winter, I think they've got the potential to be massive next year. They could quite easily sort of be near on, I don't know, 5-6 foot tall with really big leaves. But regardless of that, yeah, so that is the area around here. We've got a lot of the bromeliads from the garden, which I've just put down on floor level here. So yeah, signs are showing that things are dying off, things are slowed down. Light levels, you know, we're lucky on a sunny day to get sort of 7 hours good light, and you know, it's not enough to sustain growth, especially not with the lower temperatures as well. So there will come a point in the next few weeks where things really are going to start dying off. Other than that, I mean, you know, it's still quite nice to come in here on a windy, cooler day and just chill out with the plants, see what's going on. Like I say, the biggest issue I've got really is going to be slugs and snails, and every time I come in here I pull out a couple, and you know, just as and when I see them, I will pick them out. What I have got, which I actually overlooked when I done a sort of tour of what I was overwintering in here, because they're sort of tucked behind the cyathea here. I've got all the little foliferas, Washingtonian foliferas we grew from seed, so they're sort of tucked away at the back there. So they've grown away nicely all summer and started to get some palmate leaves on them, but they are gonna, again, just kept dry, and as long as we don't get frosted, they should be fine. So yeah, it's just really what to do, an update on the stuff that is, you know, I was really expecting to sort of die down by now and hasn't. let's finish up on this. So a common plant, but still beautiful nonetheless. When you get variegation like that. So that's a Canna Stuttgart. That's one I dug out the garden, so that was in the wrong position, so I wanted to move it anyway, so I thought I'll bring it in here, you know, give it some extra energy before the end of the season, get it grown a bit bigger, and hopefully next year we'll have a stronger rhizome from it and get it started off, and maybe split that into a couple of plants and get it back out in the garden. Right, so I think we will leave it there. Let's finish on the queen palm. So it's still looking quite good at the moment. We've still got a long winter ahead of us, but we'll see on that one. I've really have just give that a little drop of water here and there just to keep the roots hydrated. There's a fine balancing act between, you know, letting something dry out to the point where it's going to start showing damage, and, you know, overwatering something and getting root rot. So you do really have to be careful when it comes to palms, especially. It really is a fine line, so that's just a real balancing act, and that always makes me a little bit nervous watering stuff when it's, you know, temperatures are cold and you know they're not really gonna dry out too quick. But yeah, that's just pick a nice mild few days and give it a little drop of water, and hopefully it'll dry out again before it gets cool. So they are calling for a cold patch next weekend, possibly a freeze or a frost at least. We'll see. Things can change. Could get a lot worse, could be downgraded, we don't know. Anyway, we'll leave it there, and thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.